Okay, how many of you have done this? I know there's at least one of you that have. Generic intro and the Dr. Goes Move here, back with another kill count reaction. Today we're doing a triple header for the Nightmare on Elm Street series with Wes Craven's New Nightmare from 1994, which is older than me, Freddy vs. Jason from 2003, and Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010. Last week's video was another movie from 2000. It was a low-budget slasher, President's Day. I really enjoyed it. You might want to check out my reaction now. I'll leave it right up there if you haven't already. Also, a link down below in the description. Also, in a place on my channel with all my other kill count reactions in chronological order, which are most of the time movies I have never heard of. I've definitely never seen, most of them never heard of. I've actually seen Nostalgia Critic's video on Freddy vs. Jason though, but that was thousands of videos ago for me. But I do read all your comments, leave them down below. I always enjoy reading your comments, and if you like the video, I would really appreciate that. Like liking the videos, likes are always appreciated, and comments are as well. You can just tell me about how your day is going, because like I said, I'm gonna read it, and I enjoy hearing that you have a good day, whether you're subscribed or not, whether you're a patron or not. But I still read your comments, and I hope your subscribers are approaching 100,000 subscribers. I should be live streaming today as well, playing Devil May Cry 1. I just started the franchise. It's certainly something to be streaming at 5, but yeah, Freddy vs. Jason 2003. I was born in 1997. If anything's blurred, I'm sorry, because copyright, it might have a ton of copyright issues because this is going to be a longer video. But let's go ahead and jump into Wes Craven's New Nightmare. All right. If anything ever has to be blurred, that would be because I uploaded the video and then it got blocked.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite
Didn't really have much of a choice. But we're doing a triple header today.
Today we're looking at Wes Craven's New Nightmare, a peculiar little film written and directed by Wes Craven and released in 1994. In retrospect, New Nightmare looks like a dry run for Scream, which Craven would direct a mere 2 years later. That's because this is probably the most meta movie you've ever seen, unless you're a huge fan of Living in Oblivion. Because Bob Shaye likes money, he wanted to bring Freddy Krueger back from the dead, and he asked Wes Craven to helm the resurrection. Craven rewatched all the sequels and decided, well, this is a fucking mess. So he came back with an idea that's been kicking around since the Dream Warriors era about Freddy Krueger infiltrating the real world. For maximum meta impact, Craven brought back Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy Thompson in Nightmares 1 and 3, to play a fictional version of herself.
And also the Reverend for Chelsea and James' wedding.
The 10-year anniversary of the original approaches. Even though they killed Freddy off in the final Nightmare, in this movie everyone wants to bring him back, including Robert Englund himself. But Heather's reluctant to get on board, since now she's the mother of a small impressionable young boy, and because things have been a little weird for her lately. New Nightmare stands outside the continuity of the first 6 films and reins Freddy back in on a real short leash. This is not the Looney Tune clownish killer of Nightmares 3 through 6. The new Freddy is dark and scary and wears a friggin' trench coat. He's even got a brand new finger knife glove, which actually isn't really a glove because he's actually not really Freddy. You'll understand in a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Maybe. In the meantime, let's get to the kills.
I might not. What?
The movie begins like the original Nightmare, with a dude building a glove, but instead of the scene being picture-in-picture and dirty, now it's full screen and metal. So fucking metal, this dude cuts off his own hand! Good thing it's just a movie,
he just straight up wanted to replace it.
Visiting this hot set is Heather Langenkamp and her son Dylan, because her husband Chase is in charge of VFX. Director Wes Craven is real happy with Chase
wait, is that actually Wes Craven?
Terry, great blood?
Yeah, great blood, guys. Real A-positive work. Too bad their work is so good that it ends up coming to life. The glove jumps up and takes Chase by surprise, cutting his finger, and then gets way more lethal when it stabs this tech Chuck in the throat. It digs its claws in deep, and Chuck ends up falling over onto his boss and dying right there in his Chase face. The mechanical glove runs around like a mecha master hand, eventually knocking down the other tech, Terry, and killing him by hopping on his chest and kind of just pricking at him with his finger.
Just dancing.
I think it would go a little deeper there, huh? With the grunt work done, the glove goes to move up the ladder and attack Chase, but
how does it even have the force
she wakes up in her house, which is currently doing a really good impression of Jello, because it's alive. I mean, it's not actually alive. That's just an earthquake. And Heather and Chase cower over young Dylan to protect him. When it's all over,
is that really what you do in Earthquake? I don't think that is.
From his dream. Dun dun dun. Kinda fun fact, I guess, filming on this movie just so happened to coincide with the huge Northridge earthquake. So this is real quake footage we're seeing on the TV that morning as Heather gets ready for an interview. Chase is on his way out too, headed to a remote shoot for a few days. Heather's all like, "Gotcha, butt," and that must be one good luck butt, because as soon as it leaves, shit goes awry. First, a residual tremor cracks Heather's wall open into a Freddy splash. Then she finds Dylan watching OG Nightmare, and when she tries to give some parental guidance, he starts screaming and freaking out. And finally, the phone rings, and it's a harasser who's been giving her shit for the past 6 weeks.
Who's talking like Freddy and
singing them Jump Rope Girl songs.
Hello?
Freddy's coming for you!
Good thing babysitter Julie is there to take a little off Heather's plate. She's watching over Dylan as Heather gets picked up for her interview by a kind of creepy
I've never eaten an orange in my entire life.
From the
Still
Nightmare
haven't.
movies. He has the same opinion about them as me.
The first was the best.
She's being interviewed about the 10th anniversary of the original Nightmare film. And as a big ol' surprise for her, Robert Englund is brought out in full Freddy regalia. This is probably my favorite scene in the movie. In no small part due to the late night talk show band remix of the Nightmare theme. Hell yeah. Everyone is flipping out over Freddy because they want him to come back after Freddy's dead. And Robert Englund is absolutely loving it. Check out his enthusiasm
it's just like
this
Scream.
amazing shot as he quotes himself.
That one Scream movie where they were,
Heather gets a call from Sarah Risher
like
at New Line
a movie
Cinema.
set.
Again, an actual person who, as you can see, was a producer on every Nightmare movie besides Freddy's Dead, and heads over to New Line Cinema where Sarah greets her and brings her into the office of, wait for it, Bob Shea. Yep, it's Mr. New Line / Freddy 2 Leather Daddy himself, Bob Shea. He asks Heather if she'll star in a new Nightmare movie that Wes has been writing, but she's not that interested.
Why does he look like he owns the Oakland Athletics in the Moneyball?
I mean, he ain't wrong if my comment section's any indication. As a Hail Mary, Bob mentions that Chase is already down to help out on it and has been working on a new Freddy glove prototype for a while without Heather knowing. When she gets home, she hears screaming and runs inside to find Dylan freaking out and doing a creepy voice that sounds like a mix between Danny Torrance and Donald Duck.
How do you even do that?
When he calms down, he tells her that his stuffed dinosaur Rex saved him, and boy, has Rex got the scars.
Apparently.
Give that dino a Purple Heart. Heather
Someone
calls
just said
Chase
this
on
video,
set where
the
his
famous
prototype
video,
Freddy glove sits nearby, and he mentions that neither Chuck nor Terry came into work. Cause yeah, spoiler, their dream deaths in the beginning were real. When Heather tells Chase about Dylan's freaky episode and the harassing phone call, he takes off for the 3-hour drive home, not noticing that the new glove he was working on is missing from the workbench now. Story time for Dylan
It's gonna be evidence.
Hansel and Gretel, where they burned that witch in the oven. And obviously, since I'm pointing it out, that's gonna come back later. He shows her how Rex is chilling at the foot of his bed to keep the mean man with the claws away.
He's my guard.
Aw, Rex is the best! Heather tries to show Dylan that there's nothing to be afraid of, but he tells her it's different when she's gone. Looks like Chase is bringing his work home with him, because during his sleepy drive, some Freddy claws pop up and start jawsing at his crotch. But after determining it's not that interesting, the claw goes for the chest instead, stabbing Chase and tearing open his torso, which causes him to lose control of his truck. The truck veers off
now
the road.
How would insurance see this?
Killed in the ensuing accident. Heather wakes up from a nightmare of the crash, but when the police show up at her door,
did he have
they
a
tell her that
concrete
shit's
wall?
real life and that her husband is dead. She goes to the hospital to identify the body, and although the
my car
coroner
went nose
only
first
show his
into a
face,
concrete
she insists on
barrier
looking
at
at
7
more,
miles an
finding
hour.
Freddy slashes
I
in his
remember
chest
that.
and throwing up at the sight of it. Chase's funeral
My first
is
thought
decked out
was-
with silent
or my last thought
cameos
was,
from the likes of Tuesday
I can't
Night
afford
and
this.
Jesus Garcia, Rod from the first movie. There's also quite a gala blowing, and it gets so powerful, Chase's casket slips into the grave. When Heather goes to fix that
that's
little
not
slip,
good.
she trips and bangs her head, then looks up to find Dylan being carried away by Freddy down into a little coffin cubby. She chases after him into the comfiest looking place I have ever seen, but sadly they can't chill down there.
Reminds me
because
of
the whole
Haunting of
murderous
Hill House
glove
almost.
Things get worse when her dead husband starts coming onto her, so it's a good thing she gets pulled out of this nightmare by the sax man himself, John Saxon, who played her dad in the movies and who now points out that everything's okay. That night she comes downstairs to find Dylan totally transfixed by his mom's early work. Man, that's gotta be weird for Heather Langenkamp, looking at that. He tells her there's a dream man trying to come up into their world, and that wins him a VIP ticket to a mommy slumber party. Except mommy might not be slumbering all that much, because she's back to some real Nancy Thompson habits, drinking coffee in bed. She meets up with John Saxon, because in this movie the two of them are really good friends, and that makes me so freaking happy. I hope it's true in real life too. He comforts her and tells her she's
he
probably
knows
just
her
stressed from a
personally,
harassing
doesn't
phone
he?
call.
He can
While
ask her,
Gavin,
hopefully.
though, Dylan's making
Hopefully
his way
they
up
are.
to the top of a tall ass rocket ship, accompanied by some music that might just be a little too much.
What playground is that? Wait, kids had that kind of thing on a playground?
He ends up falling, but Heather manages to intercept him on the way down and save herself a second funeral in 1 week. Heather checks her mail and finds a creepy
I don't
built-up
know
letter
about
in it.
funeral
Apparently
from
not the
that.
first
Depends on
time
how
he's
he
gotten
felt.
one of these bad boys. Troubled, she calls up Robert Englund and tells him she's been dreaming of
what
Bruce,
watch is
but not
he
his
wearing?
flanderized Freddy.
It isn't you. He's scarier. He's
Darker. More evil.
Seems like Robert's been taken by Freddy Mania too, since he's apparently spending his free time painting Puppet Master Nosferatu Freddy. He also mentions what he's heard from Wes's new script, and it sounds exactly like what happened to Dylan on the playground. When Heather is sleeping that night, she gets a visit from the new and improved finger knives, which give us a nice long look at themselves as they reach out towards her. Check it out, a fifth finger knife. Yeah, the thumb's not a finger. Shut up, I'm not gonna call them phalange knives. Heather wakes up and avoids getting the claw for now, but she does come downstairs to find Dylan being weird again and singing Jump Rope Girls.
7, 8, better stay up late.
Man, what kind of songs they putting on Kids Bop these days? Then Dylan takes a set of homemade finger knives and friggin' slashes at his mom with them. Kid,
homemade finger knives?
hell. You need to get to
Okay, how many of you have done this?
Heather wakes up suddenly because
I know
fuck
there's
having
at least
that
one
scene,
of you
I guess,
that
and now
have.
it's morning. Too bad Dylan's still being a little weirdo, having figured out the puzzle mommy's been keeping in her drawer. The phone rings and Heather answers it to find a call back to the boyfriend now line from the original. Dylan throws up and starts convulsing again, and you know what? Honestly, this makes me just not want to have kids.
That'd be a seizure.
It's just too much much, man. I'm good. She takes him to the hospital where Dr. Hefner tells her he needs to stay overnight. Oh, and look, the nurse is Lynn Shade, the teacher from the original, and Elise Rainier from Insidious. But Dylan doesn't trust demonologists, so he fakes taking the sleeping pill she gave him. Heather leaves to go to Wes Craven's house, driving past a more real earthquake destruction as she does. Seriously, it's crazy that the script had an earthquake in it before Northridge happened. Kind of freaky, actually. Wes tells Heather the script is coming to him in his dream, and that it's about some ancient evil entity that takes many forms. Its latest form is Freddy, and apparently the Nightmare movies have been keeping him restrained.
For 10 years, he's been held captive pretty much as Freddy in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, but now that the films have ended, the genie's out of the bottle.
Okay, that's pretty
It only
fucking
takes
wonky,
10 years?
Wes, but I'm gonna let you finish, I guess. He says the entity wants to come into the real world, but there's a person who can stop him.
That person's you, Heather.
Yeah, because she gave Nancy Thompson strength, and
I don't
Nancy
want
was
to do
the
this.
first one to defeat Freddy. So Wes is writing a script to defeat the Freddy entity, but he needs Heather to play Nancy again to seal the deal. Cue a super meta moment where his screenplay has exactly the same dialogue that we just heard before it ends with a meta dissolve. On TV that night, Heather sees a report that Terry and Chuck were found slashed to death that morning, but the news is cut short by another friggin'
What day
earthquake.
was this?
At
That
least
was
the
a
only
couple
other
days
bad
ago.
thing that happens is Heather's coffee pot getting broken.
Miss me?
Oh yeah, and also the pissed off Freddy entity is here. He attacks Heather, who fights back in a very Nancy Thompson way.
Wouldn't
he
she be
only
asleep?
manages a forearm slash before another earthquake rocks him away and he disappears. Heather speed walks to the hospital.
I guess her
coffee
coffee pot's actually
had a
broken?
bad dream about Dylan and has come to check on him. When Hefner sees that Heather's arm is all bloody, she takes care of her and patches it up. But she also mentions that there wasn't a fresh earthquake that night, meaning Heather must have been experiencing a Kruger quake. Hefner also notes that Dylan's been afraid of Freddy Krueger and gets super judgy, assuming Heather has shown her kid the movies, even though, as Heather argues,
Every kid knows who Freddy is. He's like Santa Claus or King Kong.
While she watches over him that night, Dylan wakes
know
up
who
and
I am?
starts doing
Like-
your standard creepy horror kid stuff, up to and including a full-on Reagan McNeil-tastic. Some doctors run in to restrain Heather as Hefner decides on drastic measures.
Cut this evil out of him.
Then she turns into Freddy, and Heather wakes up, leaping onto Dylan's empty hospital bed. It was just a nightmare, but it's one that gave her another
where's
great run
Dylan at?
history. She starts wilding out and going into off-limit areas of the hospital.
Do you have a pass?
Screw your past.
She finds Dylan and Julie,
well,
but
that's a
all
good
that
way
kid
to
wants to talk about is this
get
dinosaur.
kicked out.
So she says she'll go get Rex from home.
You know that home isn't far from here, right?
Right across the freeway.
That's right.
But she doesn't make it out of the hospital, instead getting pulled into this back room that says dispensary on the door. But I don't think it's the same kind of dispensary as the one down the street with the green neon lights all over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Some nurses
definitely
come
not
in
the
and sedate
same.
Dylan against Julie's wishes. So despite her trying to keep him awake, the little feller can't help but fall asleep. The evil Freddy entity shows up, rising behind Julie and sporting his new green hat and Matrix duster. He takes a big swing at the babysitter, and her scream brings some nurses to the room who find her floating in the air. Julie is thrown against the wall by the Freddy entity, but Dylan is the only one who can see him.
Ever play Skin the Cat?
That means he's the only witness as the Frentity starts dragging Julie up the wall. In a truly
Are they gonna
awesome
think he has,
twist
like,
on the
powers
first
or
ever
something?
Freddy Krueger kill, we get to actually see the Freddy entity in action, dragging Julie up the wall and across the ceiling to the center of the room. Julie does a great Tina impression when she stretches out her arm for help, but Dylan does a pretty piss-poor Rod in response. Then the evil entity breaks her neck against the ceiling, and Julie falls to the floor dead. This kick-ass kill is sadly undercut by Dylan's poopy pants face as he screams for Rex. Heather runs to the room.
Let me
and
guess,
finds
Rex
Julie's body,
turned
but
into
no
an
Dylan to
actual
speak of.
dinosaur?
She drives off to find him and sees him climbing up the bank to get back home on his own, just
Across the freeway, like you said.
He sees Freddy in the clouds, and that spurs him onward to cross the road, as if driving in LA wasn't hellacious enough already. Heather follows as Cloud Freddy takes his sky claw and dangles Dylan over heavy traffic for shits and gigs. She gets a nice little
Why is there
action
so much
hero
traffic at
moment
this
when
time?
she ducks under an out-of-control semi-truck, but then she gets friggin' pwned by a sedan and finds him lying in the middle of the road. Dylan doesn't wait around for her because he sees a weird-looking army of Freddys rushing towards the road. Heather eventually gets home where John Saxon is waiting for her since she called him
in
on
the
the way
dark.
there. He doesn't believe her that Freddy's behind this, of course, but he's also acting a little weird. He keeps calling her Nancy.
Why are you calling me Nancy, John?
Oh.
Why are you calling me John?
Hell, he's even wearing his old Donnie Thompson badge. While they argue
Whoa,
over identities,
whoa.
the Freddy
Are they
entity
now
comes
in
out
the
of
movie?
bed and tears himself into
Like in
reality.
a movie again?
Pretty badass peekaboo. Then follows it up with a classy Nosferatu illusion. Heather senses that if she wants to get on with this, she's gonna have to play the part of Nancy.
Unfamiliar.
I love you too, Daddy.
John Saxon takes off, and
That's
look where
weird.
we at. Oh, hell yeah, it's the motherfucking Elm Street house.
And we're back to the
We
house.
in this bitch.
Always.
Inside, she finds Dylan's unused sleeping pills, which lead to his room in a Hansel and Gretel style path. In the room, Heather finds, oh shit, yo, is that Rex?
No,
Oh,
not
my
Rex.
boy. Not you, Rex. Not you, Rex. It's
Wait,
just a little
Rex
evisceration.
goes in
He's still
there.
good. He's still good. Heather
Does
takes
Rex
one of
go in the
sleeping
kill
pills
count?
so she can join up with her son in Dreamland, which she gets to by way of an amazing sheet tunnel slide. Haha, this is fun. It eventually turns into a water slide that exits from an awesome awesome giant Freddy head waterfall that deposits Heather down into the labyrinth zone from the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Armed with only a single knife against the Freddy Entities 5, Heather wanders around calling out for her son. She finds a script on the ground which describes exactly what's going on right now in another meta moment, and almost knifes her kid in the face when he sneaks up on her from behind. But then the Freddy entity comes up and attacks her, tossing her into a snake puddle and spitting out lines that are only like Freddy's on the surface.
Take a pet for the rugrat, bitch.
Yeah, dude, like you're sounding way too mean when you say it. Heather fights him off with an eel to the eye.
An eel?
Non-Nancy Thompson-like line. Fuck you! But he manages to regain
the
the
upper
upper
hand
hand before he can land a big overhead swipe on her, though. Dylan stabs him in the leg with the knife, saving his mom, but putting himself in the Freddy
is that the kneecap?
He runs away, and the FE tosses Heather into the pool so he can run in scary slow-mo and chase Dylan right into a little oven. The door to it is just too small for the entity to make his way inside. But that's why Freddy was built with extendable arms, and has been since Mark 1. Heather finally comes to and rushes to go save her kid, but she gets slowed down by some moldy toothpaste steps and a fun callback. That
that smells vile.
Enough time to dislocate his jaw and get his maw gaping like that scary thing from Beetlejuice. Even gets Dylan's head halfway inside to yum eat him up before Heather manages to stab him in the back, which makes him give Dylan up. She shoves him into the oven.
His mouth shut when he did that.
But he comes back at her with a crazy tongue attack that wraps around her head. Fun fact, Heather Langenkamp said this was her least favorite thing she ever had to film in a Nightmare movie, probably because of all the lube on the tongue prop and the inappropriate comments she was getting from the dudes on the crew. Lucky for fictional Heather, Dylan is able to find another way out of the oven, and he rescues his mom by taking the Fred entity's tongue and stabbing it to the ground with a knife. The entity cries out as the tongue splits into a fork and retracts like a scary tape measure, knocking him back into the oven. Dylan locks him inside and lights that mother up with a lever.
I'm sorry, ovens have locks?
Let the Freddy demon burn. Burn, Freddy demon. Burn. Oh, damn. Maybe don't burn so scary at the end there. That's some real messed up looking shit, dude. Heather and Dylan run away from a whole bunch of fire explosions that tear apart the
Why it explode? I guess his soul is combustible?
For all. Mother and son jump into that little pool and come out through Dylan's bed, safely in his room, as long as, you're not like breathing too much of that smoke. Also in the room is a script signed by Wes
for the next movie.
Heather for a stellar performance as Nancy. The movie ends with Heather reading the script to Dylan as a story, because what little boy doesn't want to hear the one about how his dad got murdered by an evil entity?
Yeah.
After all that meta action,
let me guess,
I'm
the
not
kid was
sure
reading the
what's
script?
real and what's not anymore. I think I need to find my bearings with some cold hard math. So let's get to the numbers.
The dinosaur's there's gonna be an icon for it, and it's gonna be a silhouette for it.
It's a green screen over there, so stay there, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Aside from
he should show up in a
Freddy
dinosaur
murdered so
suit.
mercilessly, there were 5 victims in Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Okay.
3 were dudes, 1 was a lady, and the last was an evil entity that took the form of Freddy Krueger. But I guess that's a male incarnation. So here, have this pie chart. With a runtime of 112 minutes, by far the longest movie of the series. That comes out to a non-Rex kill on average every 20
non-Rex kill.
Minutes. I'll give the Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill to Julie. I love Tina's kill in the original, and this rehashing of it does what all remakes should do. It adds something.
He's able to walk on the
Freddy
ceiling.
drag her around like that was like seeing the source code to an old favorite video game. I loved it. Doll Machete for Lama's kill will be Terry, whose chest wounds didn't look near deep enough to kill him. And that's it. Wes Craven's New Nightmare came out in 1994, and Robert Englund has said it's his favorite Nightmare movie. The world wouldn't see Freddy on the big screen again until 2003, when Englund donned the razor glove one last time for the ultimate horror crossover.
Freddy vs. Jason.
We'll get a special edition kill count on that movie tomorrow, and until then,
I'm doing this one. I'm doing a triple header today.
Thanks a lot for watching my kill count on Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I want to thank a couple of my patrons like Felicia Snyder and
shout out to the patrons.
I love Rex so much. This isn't like an official Nightmare Rex, but I think I did a pretty good job finding a similar dinosaur. And of course, Chelsea's the one who did the awesome slash mark sewing. This is just cotton balls and red thread. Tomorrow's an all-new version of Freddy vs. Jason. All right, see you tomorrow. Be good people.
What does he mean, new version? Okay.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies.
Oh, he's wearing a shirt. I actually almost got
a special editions. Well, that's what you're getting today.
Freddy Krueger
once again, we are looking at Freddy vs. Jason.
I was like, should I?
Nightmare on Elm Street and the 11th Friday the 13th, released in 2003, 10 years after the teaser we got at the end of Jason Goes to Hell.
Yep.
As with most special edition re-releases,
I've seen Nostalgia Geek's video on this.
Was in the original release of this video.
Without any
context. I wanted to record a new updated version now that I know a lot more about Freddy, and also now that I'm way better at making videos. This movie's still a mixed bag for me, with its superficial characters and the double hitter of bad special effects. Talking about the choppy slow motion and making everyone fly through the air when they get hit by something.
Yeah.
But if you're just watching this to see Freddy and Jason beat the shit out of each other, you won't be disappointed. There's lots of it, and it's graphic as hell. This crossover was a huge deal for the genre. Putting these two horror icons together was something being talked about since the 80s, and the studios went through dozens of screenplays trying to figure out the best way to do it. The premise they settled on is one in which the kids in Springwood have forgotten about Freddy, leaving him powerless and unable to visit them during their Betty Bop standby time. So Freddy manipulates Jason
Not
to
sure how
come
they
back
forgot
from hell
about him,
and
but-
scare the kids into thinking Freddy's back, so they'll start dreaming about him again and bring him back to power. Maybe that's not as cool as them competing for Satan's respect by seeing how many people each one could kill, or whatever else those
I think the kill count's gonna be real high for
well
this
enough
one.
and delivers lots of kills. So let's get to them.
I feel like the kill count's gonna be real high.
The movie begins with Freddy bitching about getting burned to death by the parents of all the little kids he's murdered. Yeah, well, that's what happens, man. Maybe don't kill kids. I'm actually gonna count this little girl in the beginning as an off-screen death for Freddy. Since he approaches her, she screams, and then he's licking the picture of her.
That's weird.
Calm down there, Freddy. This isn't the remake just yet. There's a fun montage of stuff from the Elm Street movies, but I noticed they're almost all from the first three, aka the good ones. Freddy says he searched
Well,
through
what
hell
about
for someone to
4?
kill for him until he got a really promising
4 bad?
application.
I know
by
5 and
Mr.
6
Jason
were
Voorhees. Through
unforgettable.
Jason's mask, we transport to what appears to be Crystal Lake. How do we know it's Crystal Lake? Well, this Heather chick is doing a midnight solo skinny dip. That's usually a good indication. She eventually winds up in the woods with Jason behind her, and he impales her against a tree with his trusty machete. I'm still putting this one on the list, even though Heather's not actually real, as revealed when she pops her head up and morphs into a bunch of different people, which is weird. Pamela Voorhees shows up and tells Jason to wake up and get back to killing. Too bad for Jason, she's actually Freddy in disguise. And too bad for us, it's not actually Betsy Palmer. They asked her to do it, but she was done with this shit by then. Jason's heart starts beating, and he wakes up his sleepy head, puts on some clothes and shakes up his dirt bed, then wanders off into the woods so he can get killing again. The movie starts properly with a title card and some new metal courtesy of Spine Shank.
Spine Shank? Is that a band?
And you know what? It's not that dreadful. It's kind of grown on me. It's time to meet our protagonist, who happens to live at the best goddamn house ever built. You know I mean that dope Dutch colonial, the Elm Street house.
Yeah.
Our final girl is Lori. That's right,
every
Lori,
movie, I think.
not Laura. And her buddies are Kia and Giv. They're all boring and superficial.
Do you guys think I should get a nose job?
And it's one of the worst parts about this movie. These characters just plain suck, and it's a bummer having to watch them for 90 minutes. The worst of them all is Trey, a guy who's a major dick to his girlfriend.
Whoa, babe. Tell you about kissing me after you smoked, huh? Babe, make me ask you twice, okay?
Babe, you know I don't like to be touched after, okay?
Thankfully, he's the first to get got. After he cracks open
He's
a
the
cold
first.
postcoital beer,
Does he
Jason
get?
shows up and
Does
stabs
he get
him
folded
in
the
the back a
bed?
whole bunch of times, like over and over and over.
I want to say he
before
gets
folding him
like
up in the bed like a human futon. Babe, you know I can only fall asleep when I'm.
That was
shaped like a
thousands of
pea, okay?
videos
For
ago,
whatever reason,
and I still
Jason
remember
leaves
that.
without killing the other kids, so they alert the police, who try to cover up what they think is the return of Freddy Krueger.
It's gotta be Freddy Krueger. Hey, don't even say that son of a bitch's name out loud.
Yep, motherfuckers act like they forgot about Fred, but Lori overhears the name, and after talking to Officer Stubbs, that one dude from Scary Movie, she falls asleep at the police station right after remembering Freddy's name. This triggers a fun little creepy dream sequence with disappearing bloody footprints, some missing kid posters on loan from the Hogwarts PD, and this super creepy little girl.
Ew.
It culminates in a reunion performance by the Jump Rope Girls, and they know what the crowd came to hear.
They were in the last one. Why is there's only 3 of them though? Weren't there more of them?
Like Trey's friend Blake, who's also a total douche of a human being.
You know about feng shui?
And whose actor recently graduated from the Nicolas Cage Academy of Acting.
My best friend was just killed, Dad. So how about giving me some fucking space?
He falls asleep on his porch and
Yeah,
Freddy
that
shows
does
up to
very
kill him, but
Nicolas
it turns out
Cage.
Krueger is still too impotent to do the job himself. I swear this never happens to me, bitch. Freddy friggin' talks directly to the audience as he lets them know that he'll
Let Jason have some fun.
Blake wakes up unharmed and finds his father decapitated by Jason.
Yeah, that was-
But if his Alex Jones-looking dad had survived, he could have spread conspiracies about all these kids getting killed. Because that's what Alex Jones does. He's a bad man. Blake barely has time to think about what he'll do with all that inherited InfoWars money before Jason appears behind him and
goodbye.
uses his machete to slash Blake to death off-screen. Sure, it's an off-screen death, but at least we get to see the hilarity of Blake using his father's head as a shield. Next up on our crossover itinerary is West End Hills,
it's
the
actually
infamous
not
psych
the
ward that served as
worst.
the setting for everyone's favorite Nightmare sequel. Hanging out there is Laurie's ex Will and his buddy Mark, 2 pretty likable characters since Will is played by John Ritter's son and Mark's just a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, you take that pill, bro. They escape the hospital and then we're subjected to like 20 minutes of just watching these crappy characters lead their crappy lives. We're here for Freddy versus Jason, not Freddy versus Kelly Rowland. Also, like, shouldn't her nose be gone in real life after that? Mark tries to convince
I guess he doesn't have the power
was responsible for his brother's apparent suicide.
overlap.
He also accidentally spreads the good word of Freddy Krueger to the entire high school, like a big dumb Fred evangelist. That night, everyone heads to a crazy
this
cornfield
is gonna
where,
get the kill count up
standard
there.
high school party setting. The resident nerd Linderman shows up uninvited and gets hazed by this Bobby Moynihan-looking guy named Shaq. But don't feel too bad for Linderman. Dude's even more pretentious than I was in high school.
You tear me down to make yourself feel better because you really hate yourself, which is kind of pathetic when you actually stop and think about it, assuming, of course,
First
you
year
can
psych
think all that
student bull.
makeup weighing down your head.
Okay, actually, that does sound like something I would have said in high school verbatim. Damn. Don't be a Linderman, or like a high school me. Gib ends up passing out, and during the dream wanders into a boiler room, because Freddy just likes to do his work where he's the most comfortable, okay? He stalks her around, doing some fun callbacks to classic nightmare moments, but before he can kill her himself, she erupts from a real-life wound, spitting blood in Freddy's face and disappearing from his dream world. Damn, Fred, you just got your kill stolen. This turns out Jason wants the party too, so he impaled Gib to the ground with a pipe. In the process, he also kills this ridiculous-looking glow stick guy who was straight up out to Gib while she was passed out. But as we saw in Jason Takes Manhattan, Mr. Voorhees don't take kindly to sexual assaulters, so he murders the would-be rapist with that big old rusty pipe. Fuck that guy. See you later. Jason emerges from the corn stalks like an oversized child of the corn and twists this jock guy's head around in a gross display of early 2000s CG. It's a real bad effect, and that dude is probably just standing there wearing his jacket backwards as he falls down. Shaq lights Jason on fire with some baby strength gin, which is just a joke, y'all. Shaq was probably just drinking shitty jungle juice. Whatever was in that cup, it definitely wasn't flammable enough to cause this awesome fire stun, but that's okay. However we can get this overhead shot of flaming Jason in a cornfield is fine by me. Shaq runs away in that nasty low frame rate slow motion before Jason's finally like, and he's leading right back to the party. Blade in the air for a stab. It goes through
which is still on fire, by the way.
I swear, I'm just telling you the facts of how Jason killed Shaq. Fire Jason joins the party and goes on a killing spree. But too bad all the kills are really fast for Freddy's swipe, so they're not all that satisfying. Especially this third one. Look at this. Jason clearly misses with his swipe, but then the guy suddenly has a wound in the middle of his body, spraying blood all over the place. There are 6 kills
that was
here,
even close.
Which, yes, are kills 10 through 15. Count this shit on your fingers, people. It's not that hard. Will drives Lori home.
I definitely thought there was more than that.
About a shoehorned-in subplot that's just there to give Freddy a little extra purpose.
Shut the door, by the way.
Apparently, her mom died a bit ago, and Will says that her dad's the one who did it, since he saw him stabbing her with a knife. Again, this whole thing is really forced. We don't need Freddy and Lori to have some kind of past connection. Lori runs off with Will to Mark's house, where Mark is having a nightmare about his brother's suicide. Yo, you didn't tell me your brother was Scut Farkas, Mark. He has yellow eyes, so help me God. Yellow eyes. Freddy lights Mark on fire just as Will and Lori show up at his window, so they get ringside tickets to Freddy killing Mark with an invisible face slash. Just to be sure he doesn't get another kill story.
Somehow
Freddy brands Mark like a cattle to let everyone know whose back that is now. The kids all get together with stuff.
I guess he has enough power because
Freddy
people are scared.
And this is where the movie completely loses itself. It's bad enough.
Oh, really? It wasn't already?
Characters, including this dude Freeberg, who's a straight ripoff of Jay from the View Askewniverse.
And screw that clown. I mean, what kind of a pussy comes after you in your dreams, anyway? Now that big ass motherfucker back at the cornfield. Tell me who the fuck that was.
He'll fuck anything that moves. But even worse is the real clunky exposition.
Wait a minute. Freddy died by fire, Jason by water. How can we use that?
We should concentrate on Jason first.
But I thought we decided that Freddy was the one pulling the string. Shouldn't we go after him first?
This sounds like the screenwriters working the story out aloud. Lori nods off and Freddy attacks her. And when the game
just talking out loud when they're writing the script, just like, wait a minute.
Pull stuff from the dream world into the real world. Like Freddy's here. They finally settle on a plan to go get Hypnocil, everyone's favorite dream suppressant.
That's
from
still
the
a thing, isn't it?
They break in, and the only security guard there ends up being unable to stop them, since he's got a bigger problem on his hands when Jason's knocking at the door. The guard ends up flat beneath the door, but sadly the flattening happens off screen. Also sad is the CG blood, which looks terrible, but was probably cheaper, and that's probably why it's all over this movie. You know what's also CG and terrible? This fucking Freddy Caterpillar that shows up and pokes down with Freeberg. Look, I'm down like Alice when it comes to getting high with bugs, but Freeberg fucks up and falls asleep, having a terrible
Alice in Wonderland.
By Toki the Caterpillar.
Shout out to Ruby for teaching me that.
Total narc. Not cool, bro. Jason shows up and smashes this electrical panel thing with his machete, enabling him to grab onto Stubbs and electrocute him in turn. He ends the kill with a classic Jason
be that high?
Smashing Stubbs into the panel and taking out the power of the building at the same time. Then the Freddy-possessed Freeberg tries to stop Jason with a bunch of tranquilizers. He gets him in, but then Jason cuts Freeberg in half with his machete. I mean, in the end, it did not really matter. Out, so I guess the plan was a success from Freddy's point of view.
What did Freddy lose from that?
Because, you know, he's laying there cut in half. Snoochie boochies. With Jason unconscious, he finds Freddy in Dreamland, and they have a Mankind versus Undertaker style boiler room brawl. SummerSlam 96, y'all. Even though this is sort of a warm-up bout, it's actually a fun fight. Since it's in a dream, Freddy has the upper hand. He even plays Jason like a pinball machine at one point.
But Jason is built different.
But it ends in a bizarre fashion.
Didn't they actually have that sound in
Jason's afraid of water. Yeah, you know, Jason's well-known aquaphobia, which is why he's never gone in the water once during any of the 10 Friday films that came before.
That's what started the kill count.
Goddamn time. Then Jason turns back into a weird little naked boy, and Freddy jams his finger knife in his brain, which causes us to go inside his mind, even though we were already kind of there since we were in his dreams. So what are these, memories? I don't fucking know, man. All I know is that the kids are driving Jason's body to Crystal Lake, which is in New Jersey, 8 hours away from Springwood, Ohio. whatever, just roll with it. They put
8
Laurie
hours.
under so
Is
she
it
can
really
find
that
Freddy,
far?
grab him, and bring him out to the real world.
It's 8 hours for me to
get
get to New Jersey.
You can tell is a dream because of the
I've-
choppy slow motion.
that drive is-
what? They've
yeah.
been using that effect this entire movie, regardless of reality? Cool. She watches as kid Jason gets teased by other campers who push him into the lake, where Freddy takes over and starts to drown him. That affects real-world Jason, so Kia reluctantly goes to give him mouth-to-mouth. But then he wakes up and the whole thing goes to hell, with the van crashing and Jason's body flying out of it. This wakes him up and
so
removes him from the
cartoony.
dream world, so Freddy attacks Laurie instead and then shows her a flashback or something of when he killed her mom. Yep, turns out Will saw her dad just trying to kill Freddy, I guess. The important thing here is that Freddy gets another kill on the count, because damn is Jason kicking his ass in that department. Yeah, we know Freddy, he stole your Gib kill. That only
it's the
accounts
second
for
half.
one.
He's a
Freddy
second
gets all
half player.
sexual on Laurie, because that's what Freddy does. But then the plan actually works, and Laurie pulls him into the real world, where he has a fight with Jason inside a flaming building. which is
Now
what
just
Freddy's
like it's
afraid of,
payback
remember?
time.
Freddy died by fire, Jason by water. How can we use that?
This is another fun little brawl, the first part of the gigantic finale. Highlights include Jason sweeping Freddy across a bunch of windows and eventually throwing him to high heavens with that stupid flying effect that's all over this.
Why
During
do
the
they
fight,
have that in
Linderman
there? I
also
mean,
gets
Jason
slammed
is
against the wall and impaled
incredibly
with the metal
strong.
bracket thing. So while Freddy and Jason duke it out, Kia helps Linderman sit against a tree. She says she'll be back for him later, but it's too late, Kia. Dude bleeds out and dies. Out of all the Nightmare on Freddy films, is this the only kill where someone's just kind of left on their own to expire? Sucks for Linderman. Kia runs back to distract Freddy away from Laurie and Will, but before Freddy can up his KD with another kill for himself, Jason shows up and whacks Kia against a tree with his machete.
bad.
With enough force to send her flying through the air like the sandbag
Like
in Smash Bros.
even
but
if she
not
didn't
enough to
get
cut her in
cut,
half?
just
How
hitting a
dull
tree
is
at that
blade?
velocity
Freddy and Jason go at it
would be
again,
fatal.
this time in the film's main event. It's got a nice build to it, starting with some standard slashing and bludgeoning, and then moving on to more fun stuff. Freddy flies through the air and lands by some big air tank things that he then sends against Jason like a bunch of torpedoes. The one that lands sends Jason
they
also flying through the air, and their fight continues at a construction site where Jason gets a bunch of poles impaled through his body.
That's
and they
rebar.
both get hit by this dolly thing, again flying through the air and landing on the Crystal Lake dock. There we go.
Why did it just keep flying back and
gruesome
forth?
hits of the battle. Jason slashes Freddy a bunch and causes blood to spray everywhere. Freddy slices off a few of Jason's fingers, leaving him a little nubby nub hand. And then Freddy just fucking wails on Jason with his own machete. Finally, most
With his own
graphically,
machete
he
is-
jams his finger knives straight through Jason's mask. Good God! Not to be outdone, Jason manages to rip off Freddy's arm, even as Freddy gets one last big machete stab in. It's obscenely bloody, brutal stuff, and it's all a lot of fun to watch. Then Laurie runs over, looking like the bustiest Olympic torch carrier you've ever seen, and lights the whole thing on fire. The fire hits a propane tank, and you know what happens next. Jason and Freddy
Explosions,
fly
and
through
they
the air.
fly.
But at least
Weren't
this
they already on
stunt
the
is
dock?
actually real and looks good because of it. In fact, stunt performers Douglas Chapman and Glenn Ennis were nominated for an award for this, so good on them. Laurie and Will think it's all over, meaning
not.
this is obviously their first horror film, because out of the lake, ready to do just a bit more killing with that machete, comes Freddy!
Yep.
Haha. You think it's Jason, but it's Freddy. That's fun. He goes to kill them with a machete, but Jason
doesn't-
comes from behind
Jason-
and impales Freddy with his own finger knives. Nancy
like,
Thompson
wow,
style.
Jason
Then
using
Jason
finger
just
knives.
backflops into Crystal Lake, aquaphobia and all. Laurie picks
Yeah,
up the
he wants
machete
to avoid the
and gives
water,
Freddy
right?
a taste of his own one-liner medicine.
Welcome to my world, bitch!
Then decapitates the man in the red and green sweater, giving us a nice spurt and fountain of blood, and the last time we'll ever see Robert Englund get killed as Freddy. Good work, Laurie, you did it.
So
Afterward,
who plays
she
him in the
tosses
2010
Jason's
remake?
machete into the lake as a sign of, I don't know, respect, closure, evidence disposal. It doesn't
Evidence
She and
disposal?
Will
Yeah,
look
that's
away
probably
from the
better.
burning campground, survivors of the greatest matchup in horror history. Now you may be asking why I didn't include Jason on the kill count. Well, you stupid bastard, it's because of course he's still alive. The final shot of the film has Jason emerging slowly from the lake with his trusty
But
machete in
also,
one
Freddy
hand
is
and Freddy's
like
head in the
immortal,
other.
isn't
The
it?
victor
Doesn't he
of this
wink?
Epic showdown. Wait, did Freddy just wink at us?
Yeah.
Too bad, Fred. I'm still counting you as dead, mostly because you put up such a poor showing in this thing. Don't believe me? Let's go with the numbers.
And that's like the really real
I
looking
counted
one that he
23
has.
deaths in Freddy vs. Jason.
That's a
Jason
high
secured
for
19
them.
of them, and Freddy only had 3, with Laurie nabbing the ultimate kill of Freddy himself. Only 5 of the victims were women, meaning 18 were male, giving us a pretty imbalanced gender distribution. With a runtime
That's
of
a
97
huge
minutes, that gives us a
discrepancy.
kill on average every 4.2 minutes. I'll still give the golden
0.01
chainsaw
off.
the coolest kill to Trey for that folding in half trick. Even
I
though
mean,
if you look
I
real
remember that
closely,
one.
you can see his eye move while the camera trucks back. This time though, Doll Machete for Lame
He's gonna go to the guy against the tree, yep.
Because I thought about it and realized that he just sits against a tree and dies on his own. That's lame as hell. And that's it. Released in 2003, Freddy vs. Jason made more at the box office than any entry in either franchise. So it's
Really?
kinda weird we never got a sequel to it. I hope you enjoyed
they'll probably make a sequel
because it kind of screwed up my work schedule. But we'll be back on
2003
to close out the Elm Street series with that god-awful 2010 remake.
Oh, it's bad.
I'm James A. Janice.
Oh, well, we're doing that one today as well. It's gonna be a super long video.
I want to thank a couple of my patrons like Troy Orr and Tracy S. I also want to thank a couple of Practical Folks fans who sent me this shirt, Kaylee Coomer and Chelsea Howard. I do have a P.O. box. I'll put the address in the description. Box as well. Part of the reason I did a special edition of this video was because the original version got age restricted. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. If you've seen both versions, let me know what you think of the differences. Be good people.
We're gonna skip this. We're going to skip this.
Welcome to the kill count.
I pushed the button. I didn't want to push it. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 remake kill count.
Welcome to the kill count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies.
We'll do the Strangers next week.
Today we're looking at the 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, produced by Michael Bay's company, Platinum Dunes.
Michael Bay.
Came out just a year after the same company's reboot of Friday the 13th, but compared to that film, this rehashing is a much more straightforward remake of the original. Only this time, the crimes that led to the vigilante immolation are much more explicitly sexual. This remake doesn't play coy. Human Freddy Krueger sexually abused those kids. Freddy's always been a bad guy, but this definitely adds a darker shade of ick to the character, played by Jackie Earle Haley in this version, and whose appearance has been changed to more closely resemble an actual real-life burn victim. This Freddy still cracks the occasional joke, but he's a lot darker and meaner about it.
There's a chalkboard and he has his fingers. That's not going to sound good.
A scarier version of the original by Wes Craven, who, by the way, they never consulted while making this, which he didn't exactly appreciate.
You didn't consult Wes Craven for this?
For a new generation of horror fans? Let's find out and get to the kills.
How are you gonna do a remake and not consult
at the
Wes
Springwood
Craven?
Diner, where this dude Dean wanders into the back of house to find a flagrant disregard for worker safety and food sanitation. Before he can go file an OSHA report, a guy with a familiar race
would that be OSHA or would that be
attacks him, slashing his hand, which causes him to wake up in the diner to his friend
and
waitress,
the
Nancy
FDA.
Holbrook. But she didn't give him any of their shitty diner ketchup. That's blood in his hand from the cut he got in his dream. In walks Chris, played by Katie Cassidy, because she loves to be in subpar horror remakes. And when she sits down with Dean, it really pisses off her ex Jesse, who's chilling nearby in the diner with some bros.
I don't think I know any of these actors.
Leaving his buddy Quentin behind to chat it up with Nancy. I know a bunch of you are fans of Kyle Gallner, who plays Quentin, so
Twilight almost. Even though I've never seen Twilight.
Dean whines about having bad dreams to Chris, who gets bored with this conversation and goes to call her agent about getting cast in a different horror remake. While she's gone, Dean falls asleep, allowing evil Dream Man to show up with a real weird visual effect that I hate a bunch.
You're not real! I am now.
The next part is awesome, though. Chris comes back to find Dean holding a knife to his own throat, and then apparently dragging it across his own neck. Not just a simple slit, but deeply tearing into that neck. Holy shit, this is a real cool opening kill that I wish the rest of the movie had measured up to. At Dean's funeral, Chris nods off, because I guess he's as boring in death as he was in life.
People fall asleep at a funeral?
A little girl with a slashed up chest that ends with her ankle getting grabbed by a zombie. She wakes up from her disrespectful nap and finds a picture on display of Dean as a little boy playing with that same little girl, who apparently is her. She tells Jesse, that doesn't make sense, because she didn't meet Dean until high school. She also tells him about how Dean was screaming, "You're not real," before he died, but Jesse just blames his behavior on pills, even after Nancy comes out of nowhere to tell Chris she believes her that something weird is going on. That night at the... Wait, is that the new Elm Street house? You're not even going to introduce it with a cool head-on shot or anything? You're just going to use a stock-looking establishing shot? Alright, listen, I know I used to be a non-believer, but that house is the most resilient fan-favorite character of the entire goddamn Elm Street saga.
Is it really, James?
This is sacrilege. Sacrilege! In her bed, Nancy is
something about James's sense of humor and writing just gets to me.
Famous effect shot from the original.
Unlike any other YouTuber I've ever seen.
I don't just hate all CGI indiscriminately, but can any of you look at this and honestly say it looks better or cooler than the practical effect done in the original, when VFX artist Jim Doyle pressed his face through a sheet of spandex stretched across a hole in the wall? No, you can't. Chris goes looking for old pictures of herself from when she was a kid, but a lot of them appear to be missing, and her mom is weirdly deflective about it. So that night she goes into her attic and finds a box of her stuff from childhood that includes the slashed up
1997.
A jump scare knocks her down, and Dream Dude asks if she remembers it, but then she wakes up screaming in bed. I don't know, man, looks like she doesn't remember you. Should have tried to stand out a little more. Maybe get like a hat or something, maybe a loud sweater.
Trench coat,
Good thing he'll have another chance to remind her who he is when she falls asleep in class the next day, and her peers turn to ash.
Falling asleep. I don't fall asleep if I don't want to.
Chris that she looks just as
no matter how tired I am.
When he goes to give her a little hair trim with his finger blade, she wakes up screaming in class, and sure enough, she's got a good luck lock laying in her school book. Chris goes to her home on Elm Street, where her mom takes off for an impromptu business trip to London. But Chris doesn't have to spend the night alone.
She looks
Jesse
like she's a flight attendant,
concerned about her weirdness as of late, and when she tells him about her unwanted dream guest, he catches on quick.
burned, and he's always trying to attack me with these knives.
On his fingers.
She asks if he'll stay up with her, but y'all know asking that in a nightmare movie
not
is
gonna
the
work.
equivalent to taking a couple of extra strength Ambien. So we cut to them
Also,
cuddled
shout
up
out to the
together
Dragonite
asleep. Chris
Squishmallow
wakes
Jackie
up and
got me
goes
from
out back
Birthday
to emulate that
last week.
amazing sequence from the first one. And for anyone annoyed at how much I'm bringing up the original, yeah, man, that's what you invoke when you remake a classic like this. I'll spare you all the shot of the dead dog she finds back there, but not the Freddy joke that follows.
I was just patting him.
Like I said, he still cracks some jokes, but he's way less silly about it than the Freddy of all those Dream Whatever sequels. When Chris runs inside, she ends up in a preschool where young
Seriously,
her leads
what
her passing girls
was
practicing
Nightmare on
for
Elm
the
Street
school
4,
talent
5,
show.
and 6? Like, what? See, they only have 3 of them.
She sees Freddy, too.
Pretty sure there was a lot more.
Play hide and go seek, but right when he's going to come, whether she's ready or not, she wakes up safely in bed. Or maybe not all that safely.
Found you.
You know the words to this song, folks. Chris is lifted out of bed and flies through the air like she's fighting in an early 2000s kung fu movie.
Why is
Jesse
she
watches her in
bouncing
disbelief.
around?
She eventually rises up above the bed and gets her chest slashed open into 4 gashes by an unseen force. I guess this redo of the kill.
How would he get
started
blood
it
on
all
him
was
from
fine.
that?
I'm just not really sure what the point of it is. Jesse runs out through the front door, which triggers the home security system. Oh, so Chris Fancy, huh? He somehow materializes in Nancy's room without a noise and begs her to listen to him about what happened. But she's too busy singing her favorite song to pay him any mind.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Why are you singing that?
Yes, Freddy, good. I can quit calling him Scary Murder Dreamland or whatever the fuck, now that the movie has established his name. I didn't want to spoil it for all the people who had no idea. Jesse tells her not to fall asleep, because if she dies...
I really hope this
she'll die
wasn't
for
a lot of
real. Then
people's
he leaves her
first
house to go test his
introduction
communication
to
skills with a whole
Freddy
bunch of cops.
Krueger.
Looks like they could use a little work there, bud.
I didn't do anything! Stop! Shut up!
I love that little shut up.
Shut up!
Nancy calls up Quentin and asks to meet up with him to talk, so he does some research on
So
everyone's
usually the
favorite
cops
search
want you to
engine,
talk
Dreamland.
because
The only
it builds a
engine that
case.
requires you to both hit enter and click blast off to get your search results against that famous Robin Egg blue background. He falls asleep at his computer, and I do like the way the setting becomes a dreamscape. From the vibrating bookshelves to the endless aisles that seemingly replicate and distort with the wide-angle lens they're using. Heads up for a jump scare though, because this is how his dream ends. He wakes up with Nancy there, and she drops the F-bomb on him.
Freddy?
In jail, Jesse's pulled out of his cell because his bail's been posted, but it turns out this is just a nightmare, and now he's in a boiler room along with a bunch of kid versions of the characters in this movie. Freddy shows up to provide a spark of life to the sequence, and after Jesse runs
back
into
in the
the
boiler
bodies
room,
of
by the
Chris
way.
and Dean, we get a variation on the "This is God" line.
Oh, God. No, just me.
Freddy toys with Jesse for a minute before he seemingly disappears from the place, but then he returns and kills him with a finger knife fist through the back. Damn, that was sudden and clean. We see the results in real life too.
Oh
Jesse
yeah, his
falls over dead
cellmate.
in
How's the
jail cell,
cellmate
his
gonna
fellow prisoner looking on? In
explain
a good moment
that?
of dark humor, the other guy starts screaming about how he didn't do it. Good luck with that trial, dude.
Don't
While
they have
doing
cameras
this sweet
in
stuff research,
cells?
Nancy gets real tired, so Quentin offers her Zonerol, an amphetamine he takes
What?
for
It's not
ADD. So
Hypnotil?
you know what? I
Hypnosil?
guess
What?
this movie really did update the franchise for the modern era. Mission accomplished. Jesse learned some stuff about micronaps, little waking dream states that can occur after 70 hours of being awake. So sounds like we'll be seeing some of
70
that.
hours of being awake
At home,
is
Nancy asks
nuts.
her mom, played by
That's
Connie Britton,
actually
if she ever
dangerous.
hung out with all those other kids when she was little, or if she ever knew a guy named Freddy.
I don't think so.
Yeah, something about that face makes me not believe her. But here,
Yeah,
let's do
she's
another
hiding
scene from
something.
the original. That'll be fun stuff. Nancy gets in her bathtub for a little sudsy nap, and wouldn't you know it,
Fall
her
asleep in the
bathtub
bathtub.
seems to have an infestation of finger knives, a noted invasive species in the Elm Street ecosystem. The
And
scene
bathtubs,
stops short
too.
of a full-on imitation, because Nancy doesn't get pulled underwater. Instead, she wanders into her bedroom full of snow, and it becomes the exterior of a place called Badham Preschool. Freddy shows up and implores Nancy to remember him, because she was his number one.
You're my little Nancy.
On a face lick, Freddy, you
Ew.
nasty. She wakes up in her tub to a call from Quentin, who tells her that Jesse has been killed. They look up Badham, but find that it was closed years ago, then ransack her freaking house until they stumble upon a hidden folder that contains a class picture from Badham Preschool. And it looks like the gang's all here. Nancy's mom comes in, and after she and Nancy yell at each other for a mo, she sets off a flashback that starts with a cool transition into the photograph. It
Okay,
takes us
that
back
is a
to
pretty
time
sick
when Fred
transition. That's
Krueger
something like
was but a
AI
humble
would do
preschool
these
gardener
days.
who lived in the basement of the school. Wait, what? Aren't there like zoning laws or some shit? Fred really loved the kids and played games with them like hide and go seek and Scratchy Backy, I guess. I never really liked Scratchy Backy. I was more of a freeze tag guy. Young Nancy told her mom about a
Her
secret
heads up
cave
7
that
Up.
Freddy would take them to, but in the present, when Quentin asks why they didn't go to the police, Connie Britton tells them that Fred left town before they could, but that he's gone now and it's all okay. She blames the dreams on
he's
repressed
back.
memories and says to let the whole thing go, but Nancy doesn't buy it and thinks there must
Why
be
does
more
she
here
remind
than
me of
meets the eye. She does some Robin
Sansa
Hood
Stark?
blast-off searches to find the other kids in the preschool
Or,
picture and learns that each one of
Sophie
them has
Turner.
been killed in extenuating circumstances. But no, my kill count doesn't include deaths that took place in the past and were only learned about through the news. Oh, also, one of the guys she looks up made a vlogging website where he chronicled his nightmare experiences with Freddy. But the last video she watches ends with him smashing his face into the camera, and just like he would have had to upload that video after the fact. Quentin at swim practice when he apparently falls asleep mid-stroke, sinking down to the bottom of the pool and resurfacing in a nasty little puddle pool.
Probably the worst place to fall asleep.
This is a flashback dream thing that's going to fill us in on Freddy's backstory more, since nobody watching this movie is familiar with it. Fred was chased into an abandoned building by the Elm Street parents, led by Quentin's dad, played by Clancy Brown, who I will always love, because dude's both Kelvin Inman and Mr. Krabs.
Also, why are they only at one door? He could just be going out the another door.
Into the building that sets it on fire and immolates Freddy Krueger. This is, of course, the fire that kills Freddy Krueger in his human form. So I'm going to include him on the count, even though he manages to human torch his way out the building.
The parents get haunted by him.
That's probably just an embellishment in Quentin's dream. Quentin wakes up poolside and finds Nancy to tell her all the stuff he's learned about Fred. They confront Clancy Brown about it, and he admits that they never found Fred's purported cave. So the movie takes kind of an interesting twist when Quentin proposes that maybe Freddy wasn't actually guilty of the things they said he did when they were young.
How do you know he was guilty? You killed an innocent man.
Quentin blames himself and the other kids for this apparent wrongdoing.
I don't think he
before
was.
They go off on some
Was he innocent? That'd be
Nancy
wild.
Looks down the hall to see another iconic image from the original redone because, I don't know, man. I still don't fully understand remaking a movie and reusing all its awesome shots. They were perfect already. Why shoot the same thing again? And yes, I know I'm saying that after I just reshot and re-released the Freddy vs. Jason kill count last week. The original was age restricted. Quentin blames the
so I guess I watched the not age restricted one.
He can re-up on his amphetamines. But the doctor tells him he's all out of refills and he's not about to help this tweaker out. Nancy falls into some more microsleep dreams that include Freddy tossing her out of the Jeep and her seeing the store transform into a boiler room. As Fred continues to stalk her down the aisle, he tears off part of his sweater. So after she wakes up from a real bad finger knife slash, Nancy and Quentin learn that sacred Elm Street fact: you can pull stuff out of the dream world into reality. Nancy is taken to the hospital.
It's always like a little
Quentin,
piece of clothing that does it.
From a nurse cart while no one is looking. The doctor tries to sedate Nancy, but she ain't having it. And after the doc and Connie Britton leave the room for a quick little sidebar, they come back to find Nancy's flown the coop. She and Quentin are off to find the preschool, and during the drive they have some real bad dialogue about how unique and special they are.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't exactly fit in.
Oh, Rooney Mara, you're so misunderstood and young and beautiful. A pretty good jump scare of Freddy in the road makes Quentin crash his car into a ditch, so they head to the school on foot and break in with the butt of a flashlight. There's another jump scare as Quentin slips in and out of microsleep. And I actually like the microsleep addition to the movie, since that's a real thing and it makes sense that it would be another threat to these characters. Unfortunately, it's pretty much the only addition I see that's worth a damn. Behind a maintenance door and down some stairs is a bunch of evidence that this used to be Freddy's bachelor pad, like a finger knife that Quentin finds on a table and the creepy art gallery Nancy finds nearby. Behind those pictures is a little secret sliding door that leads into a small little room. Looks like they found Freddy's infamous cave. Wait, was that Dick Butt? Yo, that drawing's almost Dick Butt. That trailing effects flashback show Nancy remembering her cave time hangouts with human Fred. Then Quentin finds a box of pictures that confirm
she would hang out with human Freddy. That's a red flag.
Backstory. This is the moment that Krueger became a confirmed pedophile. I know that the molestation thing was part of Craven's original idea for the character, but it didn't become on-screen canon until just now. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's a lot to deal with. I know, Quentin.
I know it's not funny.
Nancy decides that it's time to confront Krueger head on, so she lies down in the dirty, nasty bed down there as Quentin arms himself with a paper trimmer blade so he can sit by and watch over her while she sleeps. When Nancy finds Fred in Dreamland, she has a poor choice of words when he starts to taunt her.
What game do you want to play next?
Why does he remind me of the things from
sounds like fun.
Avatar, like the blue people from Avatar.
Freddy coming down the stairs.
I've never seen those movies, by the way.
A good little final girl. We get a shot of Freddy where he almost looks like Robert Englund Freddy, right? He pops up in a jump scare and chases her upstairs, where she falls into the hallway floor that has become blood. Not exactly a recycling of the toothpaste steps, but that's okay. Fred's here to recycle a joke.
Wait, we're recycling the toothpaste steps?
She falls through the ceiling of a bedroom in what I think is an homage to Glenn's death in the original, then finds herself immobilized on the bed. Freddy comes in and says that the dress she's wearing was always one of his favorites. Ah, fucking sick.
Your mouth says no, but your body says
Can we burn him again?
No, Freddy, goddammit, I can't watch this.
Look at me!
No, dude, you're fucking gross now. Shit, I'd rather watch Super Freddy, and Super Freddy sucks. Then it feels like the writers realized they had a couple more classic Freddy lines.
Why does he always say it like that?
So they do a couple in a row.
You're in my world. I'm your boyfriend now.
Before Quentin injects Nancy with the EpiPen, which wakes her up and allows her to pull Freddy into the real world. Nancy tosses Freddy off of her, and Quentin attacks him with the paper trimmer blade, but Krueger gets the best of him with his finger knives. Before he can deliver the final killing blow, though, he runs into a little problem. problem.
What?
His hand flies off. Nancy's here to cut off hands and steal lines from Freddy vs. Jason, and she's all out of hands to cut.
You're in my...
Hurts, doesn't it? That's because you're in my world now, bitch.
She swings the paper trimmer and slits Fred's throat wide open in a pretty neat-looking deep gash. Huh, kind of interesting that we had a deep throat cut to start off the movie and one to end it here, I guess.
Okay,
on their way out the door, Nancy tosses a lantern into the mix to burn up Freddy's body and get rid of his nasty little collection of kid stuff.
Yeah.
What's that? You want me to include Freddy on the count? Sorry, brah, no can do.
He's not dead.
Find a body anywhere. See, they didn't
Can't
find a
find
body. I'm not sure how that works out logic-wise, but here's one situation where it's not that much worse than the original, since the ending there didn't make a lot of sense either. Don't fret though, we do have one more kill to count up. When Nancy and her mom get home, Fred appears in a pretty sweet mirror shot and stabs her mom through the back of the head. Finger knives coming out through the face. It's CG, but it's still pretty freaking cool, and much less embarrassing than that blow-up doll from the end of the first one.
Way
The
better.
movie ends with Freddy pulling Nancy's mom into the mirror while she screams in terror.
As you can probably tell, I didn't think very highly of this movie compared to the original, but maybe it managed to outshine its predecessor in kills. Let's find out and get to the numbers. Feels good.
He waited until the final movie to do that.
5 people died in the Nightmare remake, which, yes, is one more than the original, so I guess it must be the better movie, huh? Of the victims, 3 were male and 2 were female, as even a split you could ask for with that number. With a runtime of 95 minutes, that comes out to a kill
pretty
on
short
average
movie.
every 19 minutes flat. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to Dean. Throat slits are usually
The
effective
first one.
in making me at least a little bit squeamish, and this one is so deep and brutal that it really stuck with me, unlike everything else in this movie. Doll machete for lamest kill is, I don't know, Freddy, I guess, since he just kind of burned to death, and we've already seen this like 3 times already. And that's it. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake came out in 2010, and although it did okay,
and they haven't made another one,
it was so roundly panned by critics and audiences alike that it remains the last time we've seen Freddy Krueger on the big screen.
It's been 14 years.
Don't tell me there's a new one coming out this year, because Return to Elm Street is just a trio of fan-made trailers for a movie that doesn't exist. They look awesome and they're great, but it's not a new Elm Street movie coming out.
Why does fan-made stuff always look like so great?
But if you like crinkly skinned killers who make jokes as they murder, I got something in store for you next week when we start the Leprechaun franchise. Until then, I'm James H. Neese. This has been the Kill Count. Thanks a lot for watching today's Kill Count. I want to thank a couple of my patrons like Dylan Johnston and Shannon Bilbrey. If you want to join the Patreon family, you can click that button right over there and do so. There are different rewards for different levels of pledges, and some of them include early releases. We're done with Freddy Krueger. How do you feel? Are you happy? Are you sad? For all the awful movies in the series, I loved the time that we got to spend.
Bad movies are
See you next time.
good.
Be good people.
Or they're good. I mean, people seem to really enjoy them, but that was a triple header, the longest kill count I think I have done. Next week will be The Strangers, which will be one of the shortest kill counts I have ever done. Wait, well, what is this? Crypt TV collab? The look? See, why does that thing look absolutely terrifying? I don't know, maybe we'll do both of those. I don't really know, but I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it made your day a tiny little bit better. If you liked the video, likes are always appreciated, and I will read every single one of your comments, so leave them down below. And like I said, I'll be live streaming the Devil May Cry series franchise. I'll be streaming that today as well. I'm playing Devil May Cry 1, and it has certainly been an experience. That movie is from 2001. That's old. That's old. But Strangers next week, I don't know if we'll do look-see. I'll probably just do Strangers just for the sake of people discovering the video, because if I do the Strangers, then there's the look-see. Yeah, it might be a little difficult, but this is 3 movies. Let me know what you think about them, and if there's going to be another one come out, and what you would change about them. Because, like I said, I read all your comments. Tell me how your day is going. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. But until next video, take care, and cue the music.
We were playing